Justice Society of America issue 1. Geoff Johns writing with Mikkel Janin on the art. Yeah, obviously this is a very much a setup issue. It is very much not the main Earth. It's not Earth Zero or Earth Prime or whatever we're calling it these days. Nope. Very quickly it sets up that this is a world where Batman and Catwoman will get together and have a daughter named Helena Wayne who will become Huntress and hunt down her father's killer at some point in the future. 26 years from now, to be precise, because it tells us. So it sets up that she's working with her own new version of the GSA, and it's a
scrub crew.
It's an oddball group, to say the least. She's working with Solemn Grundy, the daughter of like the Golden Age Red Lantern.
Right. So essentially Jade, but the Red Lantern version.
Yeah.
Of Jade. Yeah. You got Icicle, 3, I think, right?
It's not the original Icicle for sure. Yeah. So we have the Gentleman Ghost, we have the Harlequin Sun, and we have the Mist. Basically a group of criminals, and then you get Power Girl, and Power Girl's not happy working with all these weirdos.
No, and at first I was like, Johns, what are we doing? Like, come on, man, look at the scrub team. And then there's a reason for that later, why it's the scrub team. But I did enjoy how that unfolded, because it's even Power Girl who's like, constantly telling Helena, what are we doing with these guys? Like, they don't deserve to be here.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, it just kind of sets them up. Even with this weirdo team, it was kind of still like, okay, Johns is still pulling from like deep DC lore to like sort of like give us this team.
I do like that with Grundy. I like seeing Grundy there as like, kind of like this Hulk figure. And there's a line where they talk about, when did you get Grundy? And Helena's like, well, it was Monday. He's always born on a Monday. And so just playing with the whole Solomon Grundy thing. I like that a whole lot.
Yeah, Yanin's art and the full page spread that reveals that Grundy's working with her, and he holds up the I think it's Falcone, I think they say, but
yeah,
Falcone's not usually bald, is he?
No, it was what I took as someone else that's not Carmine. Maybe it's one of the other Falcones.
I suppose it is in the future, so I suppose it should technically be like Carmine's son or something,
right? Yeah. Grandson, nephew, whoever.
Whatever the lineage is.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're investigating a murder. There's also a nice page actually where it shows you kind of like all of the, all the Golden Age characters that these characters come from fighting a member of the original GSA. So you get this sort of black and white page of like, Red Lantern fighting Green Lantern, the original Mist, going through a crowd, Fate fighting the original Icicle, so on and so on. So all cool stuff. It's just kind of interesting though when you get to like Citizen or Gentleman Ghost, and it's like he was like an enemy of the Hawks, and it's like okay, it's kind of interesting to hear about arch villains of the Golden Age Hawkman, because I don't know as much about that.
Yeah, I mean, did you never read Johns' Hawkman? Because Gentleman Ghost is in it for a little.
No, he's Hawkman. No, I've never gotten into that.
Gotcha. Yeah, Gentleman Ghost I think is in the first arc, setting up like. Who's the Western version? I never remember the name, but that's who Gentleman Ghost first came up against in the Hawkman form. So, but yeah, he's just it's a cool visual too, and like Janen's art is drawing these characters that I've never seen him draw is pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a nice clean look to Janen's art that I really like, and obviously you've got older Selena sort of not approving of what Helena's up to. But they're investigating a murder, and they go to investigate it, and immediately, because they're like, wait, what actually killed like this person? And
so Fate went missing, right? And so didn't Helena have a dream?
Yeah.
Fate?
Yeah, Khalid's the one who's like missing. Yeah.
Right.
But they're investigating this body, and Power Girl starts getting sick and like kind of just dies, and then you sort of see what kills her, and it's like this manipulation of time where she wasn't just exposed to kryptonite, she was exposed to kryptonite as if she was exposed to it for weeks, but in a matter of like 2 seconds, and then shot with a regular gun. And then all the characters get killed in kind of ways like that, where icicles like shattered, the ghost is returned to being a human again, so he can be shot.
Shot in the face, yeah. That was brutal.
Yeah, and then obviously as this is happening, like, wait a minute, all these characters are dying. This is why it's like this weird C-list team, because they're all gone in the first issue. So, and Huntress is about to get it too. It's actually, there's a great full page spread of Catwoman like jumping into the skylight to like save the day, and throws at her daughter. I presume something not too dissimilar to one of the Time Masters snow globe things.
Snow globes,
because that's what it looks like.
That's what it seemed like from Flashpoint Beyond.
Yeah. And given that Johns was involved in that, that connection's not, I think, outrageous to make.
And we know this is going to tie into the Watchmen type stuff too, so it wouldn't surprise me if that has some like of the Doc Manhattan energy, right? So, and that's what, you know, because this feels very metaverse adjacent at this point, because we don't know what exactly Earth this is, but it's also playing off the idea that there is an Earth 2, if you will, where Helena Wayne becomes Huntress, versus the, you know, Bertinelli, you know, one that we always get.
Yeah, but it is worth mentioning here, we don't know if this is Earth 2. Like,
no, that's what I mean. That's why I said Earth 2 kind of vibe, because that's what they designated the Justice Society when they first crossed over in the Flash of Two Worlds, or Flash of Two Earths. You know, was the JSA Earth was designated as Earth 2.
Yeah.
But that's why there's these vibes, because these are legacy characters to, most of them are characters that we don't have familiarity with really, right? Like Red Lantern and Mist. Whoever Mist is, although the Mist has the last name of Knight, which makes me wonder if they're related to Ted and Jack Knight, the Starmen of that era. And like Jack Knight, we haven't done anything with Jack Knight since the Robinson arc series. So, you know, this might be a new Knight. So having all of these legacy characters, again, it feels very Justice Society, but we see why. And also this villain, whoever this villain is, right? The redheaded per Degaton kind of vibey person, does mention they shot him with a Luger, which is a German gun, right? Mm-hmm. But the powers seem very similar to Zoom when Johns had created the Hunter Zolomon version, right? Because remember, Zoom doesn't run, you know, with the Speed Force. He's stuck in this weird time loop, and he moves time forward around him, and that he has the appearance that he's moving fast. And that's almost kind of what this power is like, except he has full control either direction. Very, very interesting coming from Johns there.
Yeah, so the snow globe gets thrown to Huntress, and Huntress is shot back through time, and we see her going back, you know, past, like, you know, Jay Garrick, past, you know, other events in DC history, and then ultimately landing in 1940 next to Johnny Thunder. And clearly this is where the story is going to pick up, and this is why we're going to have more normal, like, traditional Golden Age JSA characters. I mean, I didn't really necessarily get an implication here, because Catwoman says you have to save the Justice Society, not this one, before the others, right? And it sounds like she's just sending her back in time to save the GSA, which is fine. But I do wonder if this is somehow going to, like, connect to the main Earth by, like, her actually having traveled to, you know, like, almost like this is not so much a different Earth, but this is Earth Prime if it went, you know, if it went wrong
with the Justice Society, right?
No. If it went wrong, Matt. So she's saying
you're talking about Huntress's, not where she ends up at.
You're confusing this. So Catwoman's sending her back to fix things. So I'm suggesting that this future we see in this first issue is the wrong timeline. It's where things went bad. So that by fixing the JSA and saving them, it will actually be just the regular Earth once it's saved, if that makes sense.
Days of Future Past rules.
Yeah. Think of this issue as the alternate 1985 and Back to the Future Part 2.
Right.
Like, that's what I'm trying to say.
Because it also gets confusing, though, because we still don't really have an answer of where the JSA have been throughout time, which I'm sure we're going to answer and whatnot. But
That's
You know,
true.
the Justice
Yeah.
Society just showing up in Dark Crisis, you know, it just seems like they haven't always been there.
Well, it wasn't Dark Crisis. It was before that.
Was it? Was it in the?
They were in Infinite Frontier and all that stuff. Like they were popping up already before that.
Right. So I'm conflating it with the big page spread when they show up in, like, what was that, issue 2 of Dark Crisis?
Yeah. It was before that.
Yeah.
They've been back for like a year before that at least.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, we still don't have concrete answers of how the timeline works, and maybe this is what gets us there, you know, and we get, you know, a time displaced Huntress.
Very, very possible.
There.
Yeah. It's like certainly it's going to be delving into maybe some stuff that will make it feel relevant to the main continuity by its end.
Right.
But I mean, I think this first issue was a very easy read. It was very like the voice for Huntress and her narration was very smooth. She had this kind of angst to her, but not in an annoying Jason Todd kind of way. It was, you know,
closer to Damien, if you will, like
sure.
Mature.
Well, it's
Damien.
Batman's kid, so I mean, there's some logic to that approach.
Also, I like that there's a lot of bitterness from her about who killed her dad, and it's never really said. It was just like some guy who went and got more power.
Well, to put the comparison in here, if it's just some guy, and maybe if it turns out to be this guy that's killing the GSA or something,
Right.
But at least right now, there's kind of some poetry to Batman being killed by a random thug that's not that important, because it's kind of like Joe Chill killing his parents. It's not someone important. It's not someone.
And that's what I was gonna say, is that it's almost like she couldn't escape the fates, right? That her being the next Wayne, you know, means that it's gonna repeat in some way, and she's very bitter about that, because, you know, Batman did all of this other stuff, but it's some random dude trying to make a name for himself, who went and got souped up and took out Batman.
I will say this though, if I'm right that this is like just the bad timeline, and that if she saves the GSA, it'll fix the timeline, that would actually lead to her not existing. So maybe I'm wrong, because then how do you deal with her? Is she like this weird, like, anomaly?
Yeah. Well, it's like Flashpoint, right?
Yeah.
The whole Flashpoint shouldn't exist either, and maybe that's what this her grabbing onto that snow globe does, this weird pocket thing with hyper time. So she'll be able to stick around this Earth or wherever. Because again, I feel like this is getting to metaverse type stuff by the end here. Because we're talking about characters that never existed, yet Johns is writing about them like they're lost Golden Age characters. Because I also caught up on the Stargirl book, and that's the other half of this Johns equation with the missing sidekicks. You know, which are very similar, lost in time, kind of like Helena Wayne. So, well, I don't know if they're lost in time, but they are lost and forgotten. So, but yeah, I'm sure they'll encroach on each other. I'm sure if you're reading both of them, you'll get more out of it than reading one than the other. But
maybe a little. I don't see them connecting too much though. They seem like they're telling fairly separate stories.
Like, they'll have some overlapping things where you can still read them individually, but you don't need them. But if you're reading both of them, I'm sure you'll have a better understanding of all of this as we come out.
Yeah. I like this first issue a lot. I think it set up an interesting story. I mean, it really. I mean, this issue did two things. It set up this villain who is clearly a big deal and takes out this entire team, and it sets up her main character of Huntress, of Helena Wayne, and then obviously by the end sets up that she's going back in time. Obviously, next issue we'll actually get to see her interact with, you know, Jay Garrick, Alan Scott, you know, Hawkman, Wildcat, whoever. So, but no.
Yeah. There's also, wasn't there they talk about something happens with the time to where Ted's claws or something had impacted. One of the former villains talks about that. And I thought that was a cool touch too. Because it does show that these characters had existed in a way that we remember, but, you know, something had changed. I thought it was a fun little, you know, story touch.
Yeah. So no, and the book looks great. Mikhail Yanin's art, but by and large, is very clean, and it gives it. And I think it's going to shine even more once we get to what's supposed to feel like this golden age era.
Yeah.
But even so far, like, I think his art suits costumes, like superhero costumes, a lot. And I think it'll really lend itself to the Golden Age outfits quite a bit. I think you get these nice flat colors that he tends to have in his art.
There's two characters I really want to see in his art style, and one is Jay Garrick, right? I want to see how he does the helmet and that stuff. And the other is the Hawks, because I want to see, you know, the clean styles, because they are very pulpy looking. I mean, especially when Hawkman doesn't wear, you know, he just wears the X vest with nothing underneath it. It's very barbarian pulp comic vibe, and I think Yannon will kill that. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to see where the art goes. But yeah, the art in this issue was especially nice. So it's been a while since we've had Yannon on a full issue, right? Because he was doing pieces.
He was doing parts of like event books or whatever. There's a great page early on, actually. It's after the first scene with the Huntress interrogating the Falcone, where it's like a sort of reverse silhouette where her and Grundy are like jumping through the city, and then the bottom of that page is this shot looking down on Huntress as she's standing on top of like the tower of like a radio station. You know, it's got the red, you know, light up letters on this like radio tower, and she's like standing at the top, and she's all doused in the red. There's some really cool atmospheric stuff. There's a lot of there's a good vibe coming off the book, I would say.
Yeah.
And I'm into it. So
sure.
I was expecting to like it, and I think I do appreciate that this feels like a very specific, focused story that doesn't feel like, you know, I think when you generally say for a long time, oh, you want a GSA book, and there's so many things that your mind maybe jumps to what it could be. I think I like that this isn't just doing that. It's kind of got its own, very much its own contained story, that it's just focusing on Helena as the main character, and the GSA is going to be there. They're going to be a big part of the story, and they're the focus of it. But it's not just doing, oh, the GSA are together, there's a threat, they're going to have to like figure out a way to fight it. No, it's different than that.
Yeah, no, and it definitely is playing on the idea of the GSA and legacy, right? Because this shoddy group that's put together, they even mentioned, someone mentions that Helena, this is not a Justice Society that is, you know, we're proud of. You know, it's come a long way from what it used to be. So just the idea that she's going to get to go back with the originals, and she is a legacy in and of herself. And that's why her you know, throwing Power Girl in there, yeah, that's another, because her entire continuity and story is all over the damn place, you know. So, but to fit with that legacy too, I think there's a lot going on here in just one issue.
Yeah. All right. What are you giving just Side of America issue 1?
I'm gonna give this a straight 8.
Yeah. I think the art's enough for me to go to the 8.5. I think on this. So
there you go.
I think I'll go with that.